It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We start with the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, who on Thursday led the federal government's communication team to the global headquarters of Arise News in Lagos, during which he explained some key policies of the Tinubu administration. The minister and his team were received by the management of the news organization, led by its founder, Nduka Obaibena. It was a key engagement on how effective communication can help to address the socio-economic tension in the country. Arise correspondent Tokumbo Oyetunji has the details.
We present to you the Nigerian flag.
The last act of the meeting, but a very crucial one indeed. The presentation of the Nigerian flag to the chairman and editor-in-chief of the Arise This Day Media Group by Minister Idris.
And we must strive to keep.
Crucial because the whole engagement of the day is centered on keeping Nigeria intact no matter the challenges. And the last few days and months have been more than challenging for Africa's biggest economy. Fuel subsidy removal, currency unification, and the attendant socio-economic hardship. Mr. Idris explains them all.
Two major policies. One, the removal of fuel subsidy, which happened on day one of his administration. And then a few months after, the unification of our foreign exchange. These two policies have extremely huge bearing on the trajectory of Nigeria's economy and its well-being. Instead of our currency now being a means of exchange, it now became a commodity itself for people to trade in and just make money easily. There is no way that any economy could grow following that trajectory. If you look at the accruals to the state governor between January and May 29, and then January and May 29 of this year, you see a huge difference. So has that impacted on the lives of our people? If people are asking, what has the federal government done with their money? Which is a very legitimate question to ask. People should also ask what the state governors are also doing with theirs.
The nationwide protest against hunger and hardship has been a major consequence of some of the policies of the government that he represents. The momentum seems to have gone down at this time, but its echoes are as loud in this meeting room.
Especially with regards to food prices, which is really the major issue. Recall that in the last 10 years, most of our farms in this country have been deserted because of banditry and other forms of criminality. People have been driven away from their farms. Real investment was not really going down to the agricultural sector. So when the president came, he also ensured that so much investment going to agriculture. There's no democracy that will not support protest, but there's no democracy that will also support violence. While we have seen protests that may have started with very good intention, and for which our security agencies, by the way, responded to. I think the security agencies were in their best, especially if you look at the early part of the day that the demonstrations or the protest began. And I meant it when I said the president was already protesting on your behalf. He was putting in place all those things that will make life better for all of us.
No hard feelings, only words of observation and key recommendations that are necessary to drastically check the social tension in the land.
We believe and agree that subsidy must be removed. We believe and agree that there should be a market-driven exchange rate, but not at the same time. The strategic error was remove the subsidy and exchange at the same time. If you needed a stable exchange rate to modulate the subsidy, because the subsidy responds to market prices. So had you even sequenced it Had you now told all this IMF and co, who say they support your reform, we've removed subsidy, we've cut waste. Now we need the ammunition to have exchange rate management. But we did the exchange rate without ammunition. Yes, the government needs more time. A key issue is local governments. Why do we have insecurity? Because the failure of local government. So restoring local government is a key point, but we take time to rebuild. So people say you are not communicating. You are communicating, you are here. But the communication you are not doing is communication by example. Look at National Assembly. The way they live, the way they conduct themselves does not show that we are in trouble. All this student loan, they are okay. But the key issue is how are we taking care of the poorest of the poor? So if we want social cohesion, we have to do something about poverty in the north.
More interactions and some harmonization.
What this government needs is more than public relations. The deficit really is in terms of policy articulation. There is no policy articulation taking place.
Every country has its own unique identity, and they create institutions to promote it. So we are coming up with 7 concrete institutions of nurturing, so that wherever you go as a citizen, you encounter these institutions that tell you what the values are. And our children are brought up as model citizens who understand what the values are.
An ecclesia of the session with one key agreement that there should be no we against them moving forward, but a new mindset of we all for a greater Nigeria that works for everyone. Tokunbo Oyetunji, Arise News, Lagos.
All right, a hope for a greater Nigeria that works for everybody.
That's right.
Shall we begin to unpack that meeting? I believe you are both in attendance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're both in attendance and we both spoke in that meeting. I mean, there is nothing different from what we've been saying all this while. At first, we come here every day because we want this country to work. Because not just for only us, but for the generations yet unborn. If I take, for instance, we're talking about your lovely, adorable daughter today. And just imagine a Nigeria that works for the future of that lovely girl. 10, 20 years from now, you want a country that can assure her of a future. You want a country where things work, her rights will be respected as a woman. You want a country where the economy cares for the citizen. And that might be the country you want for your child out there. And that's why we say the things we say. We don't say the things we say because, like some people try to narrow, we don't like APC. I don't care about political leanings. APC, PDP, LP, whatever, are just letters. When you check out the political parties in '83, they are not the political parties that exist today. Political parties will come and go, but Nigeria will remain the same. And the question that will be asked of us, generations to come, is at a critical juncture of national inflection. What did you say? And that's why I keep on saying that President Tinubu dropped the ball and failed a lot of Nigerians for taking 2 very painful decisions that constantly hurt people. You remove subsidy without thinking deeply about it, against your advisors, and you floated the currency. It's a do-it-yourself destruction that you meted out on Nigeria. I understand the point. You wanted to fix the economy. I understand the fact that subsidy had to go at some point. But a lot of people had advocated for a phased-out subsidy in consonance with market empiricals. I understand the fact that a lot of money was being expended to defend, the naira at some point. But we also know that there was a lot of corruption in the forex interplay that could have been sorted out in Form M's and people they're allocating dollars to. But most importantly, what should have been done is to be able to still keep the currency, now that we floated the currency over I repeat, over 100% devaluation. Just today in the papers, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria was saying, due to Forex, they've lost about 1.5 trillion in 6 months. The manufacturing sector is dead. Agricultural sector is dead. Small business sector is dead. Most of these business sectors are crying because of this devaluation. So it's not because we don't love you, but taking those two decisions at the same time was hurtful for the country. And I hope you take this in and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the chairman this day and the Rise Media Group had emphasized on that. In fact, that was almost his opening statement, and just spoke extensively about the fact that Arise as a station, as a media station, is in support of fuel subsidy removal. I don't think anyone should be in doubt of that. Also, a market-driven, exchange rate. But the challenge, as was mentioned by Rufai, is the fact that it was done at the same time. So it didn't seem as if they had a strategic direction with regards to the impact on the people of those two policy directions. But beyond that, I think some other salient points were made. But before I go there, let me just say that this was a good outing and a good show by the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. I felt it was a good signal as to the fact that we are not enemies in this regard. We are not, it's not a face-off between media and the government. We want Nigeria to work. Each, individually or at different points, we're doing our jobs to ensure that Nigeria works. So our job is to hold government to account, to inform the people, ensure that the voice of the voiceless is heard. Their job, of course, is to represent and communicate the policies and direction of this government. And so it was great to have that coming together, that meeting. And I believe that what was shared would not just be taken on board, but taken on and acted upon, because it would then just not be a fruitful meeting if it was just a talk shop, because it ended up being a mini town hall. We had different people have the opportunity to express themselves and give feedback that would hopefully get to the powers that be, other ministers, the president himself. So that was important. A few key points that were also mentioned. The fact that the importance of communication by action. It's often said, it's not what you say as much as what you do. So if you're saying that, we should have to sacrifice, tighten your belts and so on, but the people who are leading don't seem to be doing that. So you can't tell the man on the street that we are poor in Nigeria. It's not possible. How can we be poor whenever we see the leaders, they are in an entourage of very exotic cars, they're traveling to exotic destinations when people are on the streets protesting? What would just be said is that the money is not just trickling down. But that's not the reality. The truth is that there's not a lot of money to work with. And what they had said was that they inherited a bad government, but they're not showing it because they are giving money to buy, to build new houses. It means that we're in a season of plenty. If you can build a 21 billion in Naira house for the vice president at this time, buy a new private jet. So those signals don't send the right message. So if they want to communicate, it must also be by action. And then very importantly, finally, the chairman spoke about poverty in the north. And that must be a concern. We've spoken about this a number of times. We saw what played out during the protests and how it just went south in the north. And just to imagine that, we cannot forget them. And an important point is that we've had, leaders from the north more than from the south. So what did they do? So the people should ask the leaders who were supposed to represent their interests at certain points and how they mismanaged the funds. But irrespective of that is how we go moving forward. Let's provide infrastructure for the north. Let's ensure the people are educated. Yesterday, Prophet Issa El-Buba talked about the fact that it's the people that they listen to that informs their actions. It's what they see as good governance is what informs their actions. So really, really good meeting, I believe. And I hope that going forward, it would help with their communication as well as with synergy with the media. Absolutely. I'm with you on that, especially on the chairman's emphasis on communication, because I believe since this administration came in, one thing we've talked about endlessly ad nauseum is body language. The body language is critical, even at a time when things are uncomfortable. The way you communicate it, shall I call it non-kinetic communication, what we are seeing from you makes a big difference. Now, when we talk about the policies, I believe that everybody is in one accord with regards to the policy. They go according to global norms. However, there is no functional economy on earth that does not prioritize the welfare state. If you look at United States, where the IMF and the World Bank are situated, what do they have? They have a very robust social security net for their people. So all of these policies are great, medium term, long term. However, there's a simple psychological principle called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. at the critical base of that are physiological needs: food, water, shelter. So before we can think of self-actualization, before we can think of education, before we can think of a growing, robust economy, let's make sure that the common man, the average man, has food, water, and shelter. The next needs are security. Let's make sure that the man or the woman can leave home, go and fend for his family or her family, and return home without any concern of anything happening on the way. So when we address the Maslow hierarchy of needs, then we can now look at all the other wonderful policies and the timeline that it will take for them to become actualized.